Trump was right. No matter who you are, what your political party is, or who you voted for, when he said this, he was 100% correct. Every freedom-loving American needs to understand the time to stand up to this growing tyranny is right now. Now, very strangely, Elon Musk came out and did a series of polls on Twitter where he put at the very end of the polls Vox Populi Vox Dei, meaning that the result of the poll or the result of the voting would be what he stood by, and he got some very strange results, some things that he didn't predict. But is Vox Populi truly Vox Dei? And I'm asking this question honestly. Is the voice of the people the voice of God? Now, what if I told you Donald Trump also said something right at the very beginning of the pandemic, way back in January 2020, that would make you scratch your head a little bit and wonder where he might be coming from? Yesterday, we did a video talking about being ready for the unknown. The reason that you prep, the reason that you put food back, the reason you get medical training, the reason you do rifle training at the range and you have those is because you don't know when. You know eventually that day might come. Hopefully that day never comes. But you don't know when it's coming, so you're always ready. That's why you prep. Most of us who have been brought up in the church believe it's an eventuality in our lifetimes. Now, given that the Bible says we're not promised tomorrow, we don't even know what our lifetimes truly are. My father passed at 34 years old. My mother passed in her mid-60s. I had one grandfather passed in his late 60s, one passed in his 80s. We don't know. We just don't know. And that's the key. But Trump said something that at Davos in Switzerland, talking about the climate crisis, that would really make you scratch your head and wonder where his belief systems come from. Now, one of the things the Bible teaches us, of course, is to be thankful. And I always want to step up here every day and say thank you to everyone who shows up here, watches the videos at YouTube, engages in the conversation in a respectful way. I appreciate you more than you know. To those of you who have taken it to the next level over at Patreon, where it's only $1, you guys are making an enormous, huge difference in my life. It is building a survival arc of people that, given that we're not promised tomorrow here on these platforms or in life or no matter what, things can change. And God has plans for us that we don't know about, and we just have to follow and have faith. So those of you that are helping me out over there, believe me, you guys are in my prayers every single night. Thank you so much. It's even less than $1 a month if you sign up for an entire year, fully refundable for first 90 days. First 90 days, fully refundable, lowest allowable level. Guys, if it could be a quarter, I would charge a quarter to make it available to as many people as possible over there. We can partner with Vimeo and we can talk like adults. And believe me, those of you who think there's still censorship over there, ask some people down in the comment section. Type the question, is there really no censorship over there? There will be people that will answer you and say, yes, Florida Maquis is telling you the truth. In fact, I canceled my subscription because there were images over there that I think should have been censored. You'll have that response, but I don't want to waste a whole lot of your time. This is what Trump said. This is the exact quote from President Trump at the time, early 2020. To embrace the possibilities of tomorrow, we must reject the perennial prophets of doom and their predictions of apocalypse. Now here, and I'm sure a lot of you are aware of this, he was talking about the Al Gores of the world, the Greta Thunberg of the world. These people that continually warn of rising sea levels and all this kind of stuff. Those of us who have believed the Bible for so long and have read in Revelation and through the prophets and in the New Testament to some extent about the end of the world have always believed that there would be some type of an apocalypse, whether it's going to be climate or whether it's going to be hand of God. It's all hand of God, no matter what it is. But there's always been those who have rejected that idea. And it sounds like, from what President Trump is saying here, and correct me if I'm wrong, that he rejects that idea that preppers hold very, very close. Yesterday we talked about, the idea of having stockpiles of food, being trained with ballistic weapons, and getting the medical training the Patriot Nurse offers so that you have, this set of skills and things that you can ride through the tribulation with. And to hear a statement like this would make you believe that someone doesn't believe that's ever going to occur. That things are always just going to be what they are. There'll be different levels of good and bad. But, this was 2020. I'm not sure when this statement was about standing up to growing tyranny. But it almost sounds like here that unless you stand up to this growing tyranny, that something bad's going to happen. I don't think there's anyone in my audience that would push back on this statement. Now, I don't think there's one single person out there that would say that we're not living in the last days. I mean, maybe there is some non-Bible believers out there in my audience, perhaps. But if you're a Bible believer and you're in my audience, I virtually guarantee that with all the signs and wonders and things that we've seen and everything going on, that we are truly living in days of Noah, so to speak, last days, and being prepared for it. So you would then have to ask, who would you have in your survival group and why? And would you survive in a group? Because at the time, the 12 disciples that Jesus put together, you could look at that as some type of a survival group, because he pulled from all sorts of different backgrounds and belief systems, even people that you didn't even believe in the Christian theology at the time. So this game is called State of Survival, and I've thought about streaming it on Twitch. It's kind of one of these games where you just kind of click through, and you go and you have gun battles, and you have a survival area, and you grow food and do this type of thing, but just to be able to still have conversation. But the whole Vox Populi, Vox Dei thing. America loves Trump. Trump massively overflows CPAC with another impressive crowd of supporters. It's something that is contrary to Bible teaching, which is really weird to see a lot of Christians, from my perspective. And I'm not asking this in a facetious way. I'm asking this in a very honest way, in the most humble attitude possible. How does popular voting, voice of the people, jive with what was taught in the Bible, especially in the New Testament? Because the vast majority of Romans wanted nothing to do with Christians at the time. And so if you would have looked at what the vast majority of the people in the Roman Empire would have wanted during the time of Jesus, it wouldn't have been Jesus. It wouldn't have been Christianity. It wouldn't have been the church. In fact, what was the scene when they were, give us Barabbas, give us Barabbas? They were given a choice between, a guy who was known to be a criminal and Jesus to be spared the cross, and they chose the other. They didn't choose Jesus. So, I mean, would he have to say, well, you got to understand, we have voting and we have fairness. And so I guess, this is why Jesus goes to the cross, because it's a very odd thing to see the two things juxtaposed together. It's almost kind of like, there's a story out of Colombia. It's largely resolved now, but there was these oil field kidnappings. I think it was 70 or 80 cops and a bunch of oil workers were kidnapped by the locals because they had this Chinese oil company had broken his word and had not improved the roads and not built the schools like they said they were gonna. And they eventually resolved it, but that they had the ability to lay hands on 70 or 80 police officers and hold them hostage in Colombia has to give you pause. Meaning, here's the Colombians, in essence, clamoring for more socialism. Now, I want you to think about this very very, very carefully. Here's the Colombians who have been decrying the Venezuelans for so long, now saying we need more socialism, we need more intervention and in our lives and government money coming back to us from what we perceive to be our resources. The oil being pumped out of Colombia, the Colombians want to see the monies from that benefit them, which is basically the whole crux of what's happening in Venezuela, which ties into another story here in the States. Alaska governor says Biden treats Venezuela better than his state. 2024 can't come soon enough. What he's talking about here is this deal to get oil and gas off the coast of Alaska, and he thought more money should be gone back to Alaska than what was what they're going to allow. They wanted to charge an 18% fee versus a 16% fee for the leasing, and it's all about the money and who got what money. So anyway, couple of really great resources. 1776patriotusa.com, Rourke, Rourke, on building a survival group. Really, really great resource for this type of thing. Once again, there's an article here also about how to start building a survival group and who you should and shouldn't look for. Everybody has their own opinion on this, but I would like to ask the question, and I'm not asking this in a way that I'm trying to evoke an answer that I've already made my mind up. I would love to hear the opinions on this. Freedom-loving Americans wanting to win a popular election to, in the next election cycle, reinstall the guy who was in before Biden. And they want to do this through force of popular vote. This is what CPAC was all about, and raising all the money and, picking candidates and saying, this candidate's bad, this candidate's worse, we need to stick with Trump so that we can do this, and this. Okay. But is that biblical? And I mean, I'm not saying the man isn't, the guy who's in now is any more biblical than anyone else. I'm talking more about the methodology, especially when it's someone who's said something here that I don't think a lot of people, especially preppers, could wrap their head around. How can you reject the idea of apocalypse when the Bible says it's coming? Regardless of whether it's a man-made climate disaster or a natural, if the sea levels are rising by themselves for whatever reason, who knows? Whatever the reason, Christians have believed and planned for a long time, and I mean decades and decades and decades, that the end was near and to be prepared for it. But I don't think you would ever hear a Christian say this. Could you imagine a Christian, especially in the South, getting up in front of a group of people and saying, to embrace the possibilities and hope for tomorrow, we must reject the perennial prophets of doom, all these preppers and survivalists and end-of-the-world types and their predictions. We have to reject all that. I think you get a lot of pushback. I think you get a lot of people standing up saying, wait a minute. And they'd start turning to chapter and verse and show you, look what it says here in Revelation. Look what it says, what's going to come. That we're to be, get ready for this. And to be informed and prepared and be ready to take care of our families and do what we have to do. So, anyway, I think it ties directly in standing up to growing tyranny. So, I will leave it there. Have a great Sunday. God bless. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you guys next time.